Okay, let's take a look at this, and we've worked through all these poses, we've worked through all of each of these drawings, and now we're ready to start timing things out because you know, drawings is one thing, but now we need to make them move. And one of the things about timing is it's very difficult to teach, just for the simple fact that it's such a it takes such a feel. It's kind of like how do you teach someone to do something that is very subjective this way? There's no rules that say, well, this kind of emotion takes this amount of time, or this kind of action takes this amount of time, because it just doesn't. The rules don't work that way. So it's important to be able to have flexibility when you're doing your timing. Even so, we want to be intelligent about what each of these drawings represents, and when it comes time to start timing things out, there's lots of different tools, lots of different ways you can do it. The most common is that people just take these poses and they'll spread them out into time and they'll make play blasts, and we're gonna try some of that today. But as with anything in animation, the more you can think ahead of time, the better. Okay, it's just the reality of it. So what's helpful is to understand what each of these drawings represents. Okay, so what I'm going to do is what I commonly do. I'm just going to make a little list of what each of these drawings, you know, what it stands for. Number one is just the door closed. Okay, and number two is what happens with door when number two. Okay, is the door is just starting to open. The door just opening. Probably right after doorbell. Okay. Drawing number three is that big breakdown, so it's a continued number two, meaning it's part of that motion. And one of the things that I like to do here is also understand or think about what I'm going to do, or what kind of speed I want this to be. So in my notes, I wanted it to be kind of slow and then fast, you know, so it's like click, what do you want? I want it to be slower in the beginning and then snap up to that, what do you want? So it's not going to be fast and then slow, but it's going to be like slow then quick. Alright, so at this one right here, number three, I'm going to remind myself slow then fast. Okay, and really what I'm doing here is I'm not even going to save this document. It's just like a notepad for me to think, to just think, instead of just throwing these things somewhere out in the timeline and you know, just playing it by ear, whatever, and then making a million play blasts and adjusting it. This way I'm able to just move with a sense of purpose, and that's really important whenever you're doing anything in animation, is always have a sense of purpose. Okay, so the fourth drawing is, you know, a continuation of, you know, number three, and the fifth drawing is going to be the what do you. Alright, so for number four, I'm going to use this as the launch into the fast. Okay, so it's this one right here. Number four is where I want to go, you know. Number two is slower, and number three is kind of slower. Number four is where I kind of pop into number five. Okay, so I pop into, you know, five, fast. Pop into five quickly. Okay, just giving myself notes as to how I want to do this because I'm thinking through the motion. Alright, so 5 hits what do you, and then 6 hits the wa of want. Alright, and number 5, as I think about it, I'm thinking, you know, hold a bit. Alright, what I want to do is I want to just, as I'm thinking through the motion, I'm like, what do you want? You know, that what do you, that hold right there, is I want to make a note of that so that I'm being intelligent about things. and then this is the wa for want. Okay, and we're going to hit this pretty good. So we hit this pretty hard, meaning it's going to be pretty quick. Okay, and the seventh drawing is the int of want, and this is kind of like a well, the way I think of it in terms of this is kind of hit the end of that pose, so it's just a continuation. 6 is the hitting of it, and then 7 is kind of the finish of the move, so we'll call this an extreme of 6. Okay, and then the 8th drawing is the end of the moving hold. Okay, of 7. Okay, and that's just kind of the end of the scene. So this is what I will generally tend to do. Will I do it in a text pad? No, I'll oftentimes just write it down on a piece of paper, but it's hard for you to see what I'm doing on a piece of paper, so I'm writing it here in a document for you to see. Now I have a game plan as to how I'm going to time this out, and this is the part that's important because it's relatively, whichever way you choose to do it. I like to use some scripts and tools that I wrote that treats Maya like a pencil shooter. If you get VTS46 SE, which is the special edition one, that talks about using a free software called Monkey Jam, which is it's a 2D pencil timer program. It's free. It works on a PC, and I wrote a Mel script some time ago that interfaces Maya with this pencil shooter, so that you can change the timing when you go from this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 thing, spreads them out and brings the timing back to Maya. But for this one, let's just kind of stick with the normal way that everybody works. I'm not going to show you any great and fancy tools because most people don't have access to them, and it doesn't really make any point. So now that I have a game plan, what I like to do, pardon me, is I like to now just start sliding things off into space the way they're supposed to be. So I'm just going to take all of these controllers, and I know that the end of the I kind of work backwards. Okay, I know that the end of the moving hold is the last one, so I'm going to take all of these. I'm going to slide them back here, pretty much near the end of the shot. Okay, and I know that this door is closed all the way to the end of the doorbell, and right here, this is ding dong. You can't really hear it because the screen capture software only allows one input, my voice or the audio. So it's ding dong, and then the door clicking, and this right here is the door kind of the handle changing, and then the door kind of popping open, and then here he says, what do you want? So here's the U, and this big pop right here around 48 is the U. Right, so the doorbell ends right around 33. The door pops open here at 4 because this is turning the handle right here, and then 40 is where it pops open. The beginning of what do you is right here at 44. And then 48 is the beginning of want. I'm sorry, U. It's the what do you, and this is the wa of want, and this right here at 54 is the beginning of the ah of want, and then 61 pardon me, 61 is the t of want. Okay, so now that we know all of that, we can kind of take, well, I know that all of these things are going to sit here still pretty much until 34, 33, okay, because there's nothing going on. The doorbell's going off, and so the door is going to open somewhere right around, it pops open here at 40. So I'm going to take all of these drawings and move them to 40. And now what's happening here is all this stuff is unlinear. So when I make my drawings, I leave them as linear because I kind of borrow some of the computer's interpolation. But when I do this business right here, I don't want to be confused with linear keys right now. So what I'll do is I'll just select all these things and I change the tangents. You can't see it, it's off screen, but I change the tangents to stepped. So that way I'm not confused by things drifting in and out. So the door opens here at 40. So that means this door closed thing can be held right to pretty much the end where the door is going to open. Okay, and then here we're knowing we want to do kind of slow then fast. We remember that's kind of our thing. But it's hard to work forward this way because we got all these drawings after. Okay, so it's actually easier. Let me actually go ahead here and make this a little bit bigger. It's actually easier to do this stuff from the back side forward. Okay, so I know that this drawing right here, this would be the 7th drawing. Moving backward is the NT of want. Okay, so I'm going to take this one, and I know that right here is the NT of want. So I'm going to hit it just a little bit early. For most dialogue, I try to hit a frame or two early. So I know that that's the NT, and that's the moving hold. And this right here is the ah of want, right? Number 6 is the ah, the wah of want. So we hit this one pretty hard. Right here is the 54, 55 is the height of that wah of want. So what I'll do is I'll hit it just a little bit early, maybe 1 frame. So I'm hitting it here at 53, okay? And this is the what do you, right? Because we go back to our drawing before that, is the what do you, okay? So this is the what do you, let's find where that is. Right here, the 48, if you remember, we said was the beginning of the U. So let's go ahead and hit this somewhere right around here, halfway between the beginning of the what do you and the U, okay? Right here is the beginning of what do you, and 48 is the U, so we'll just hit it at 46-ish. And it's just got to be close, all right? Because the more we think, the less we have to do experimentation and a million play blasts and waste our time. Because if you make play blast after play blast after play blast, you waste your time. And if you wanna do a lot of web browsing, that works for you. But if you want to go home in a decent hour every night instead of living and breathing and sleeping at work, then go ahead and make play blasts all day. So now we have this pattern of the slow fast sort of thing. So we know we just hit the what do you, we want to hold that. So number 4, which is the one we just what we're looking at here, it's the 4th drawing in. 1, 2, 3, 4th drawing. We hit that, and we're going to use that to launch quickly into what do you. So it means for it to be quick, the timing of it needs to be pretty close. So if sorry about that. If the what do you is here, and well, let's just do it by numbers. If number 5 is here and number 4 is here, and we want it to be pretty quick, of course we'll make 4 closer to 5. Okay, so it will take less frames. If we want to move slower, of course it takes more frames. All right. So since we want 4 to move into 5 pretty quickly, there's already 4 frames here, but I think we can move faster. So I'm going to move it down to 3. So that's 43, 1, 2, 3 frames into that. Alright, so we're working here with, that's kind of slow. We start here at 38, and we want to go slower than faster. So what I'm looking at here is the 4th drawing is right here. Right, that's kind of a continuation of 2 and 3. And we're going to use this as a launching point into 46, 43 to 46, 3 frames. It's pretty quick, okay? So what we'll do then is we've got drawing number 3 is here at 41. That's going to just be, you know, a continuation of number 2, but it's kind of that slow then quick. So we'll move this over, say, I'm trying to guess here, between 1 and 2 frames. You know, we could just leave it where it is and kind of see how it looks. One thing we can do is we can move this, the start of the door opening back a little bit, because it just seems to work better in animation when accents or actions or moves or dialogue hits just a few frames, 1 or 2, before the sound. And so I know that the door begins to open, you know, sound-wise around 38, 39. But I'm going to move that back, and it's going to take us 2 frames to get from here to here, and then another 2 frames to get to here, and another 2 to get to here, and then 3 to pop up there. So what we're looking at for a grand total of opening the door is 37 to 43, and then up to there. Okay, so that's 9 frames for that entire move, less than half a second. And of that 9 frames, 6 of it, or, you know, 2/3 of it, is just getting to this point right here. So it's slow, and then it pops up into it. Alright, and as I scrub through it just quickly, I'm kind of getting a sense that it sort of works. It's a little on, it feels a little on the slow side to me as I kind of scrub through it. And what I should do is go ahead and make a play blast here of this particular first pass of timing, so you can get a sense of what's going on. Okay.
What do you want? What do you want?
So as you can see, it's kind of slow at the beginning, and I think I made it too slow. That's one note I have, is it's slow through the whole door opening thing, and the second note is everything feels late. All right, like it's just hitting too late. So those are the primary notes that I want to fix. So what I'm just going to do, for the sense of being late, I'm just going to grab everything and move it 2 frames even further forward. Okay, we'll try and hit that. The other thing is, it felt like with the door is that the door should pop open sooner. And I kind of analyzed this sound a little too closely, meaning I was thinking of the terms of turning the door handle and popping it open. But the audience, as I'm watching it, I'm realizing it's not going to feel like that. It's just going to feel like the door's opening. So I'm going to tighten a lot of this stuff up right in here. Going to move this to 1 frame here, from here to here, and then here I'm going to move this back. And I think overall, as I think about it, as I'm scrubbing through it, and this is off the top of my head, so you'll have to forgive me, because I don't, as I've said in other VTSs along this thread, is I don't figure this stuff out ahead of time. I'm animating, okay? And as I'm right here, I'm kind of calling an audible on myself. I know that I had thought about all this stuff right here, and I'd worked it through, and it's good, but here's a great example of sometimes you come up with an idea, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So in this instance, I've kind of got it in there, and I've got myself, I've got myself this one QuickTime here that gives me a sense of where I need to go with this. So I'm just going to call an audible here in football terminology. I'm going to change the play. So I'm going to take and make this whole thing a lot tighter. I want to get through this pretty quickly. I think 1 frame might be too tight. From here to here is probably good to happen in 1 frame. So I'm going to move everything's there. And then from here to here in 2 frames sounds good. From here to here in 2 frames is probably better than, what I've got now. So now what I'm doing is I'm looking at the changes in the drawings and thinking, well, realistically, how long should it take to get from one to the other? I'm kind of changing up the timing / spacing a little bit here. So I'm going to move this over, and I'm going to try this at 2 frames to get from here to here. That's going to be slow, and then 1, 2, and then right there. And we'll see how that works. I'm still going to try and hang out of that slow, fast feel, but I'm compressing the whole thing down. Okay, and then I'm just going to move this over. So we get from here to here in like 2 frames, and hit right there for the what do you, okay? And right there is the beginning of the what do you. So he's up here for that, and then here's the beginning. Here's where he hits want, and this actually is the beginning of what. It's like the what do you right here is that place at the end of the you in the beginning of the wa of want. So it's kind of right smack dab between the 2 words. You've got you and want. Okay, and anybody who understands how sounds are made, you understand that the you and the want are the same shape. You have this, this shape right here of the lips. Okay, so I'm gonna pop this. Now that is definitely not what we're seeing right here in the face, but we don't want to hit it right on. We want it to hit it so it feels right. So we're gonna hit this a little bit early here. Okay. And I took everything and moved it forward a couple frames, so I'm not going to mess around with this too much more. What I'm going to do now is go ahead and make another play blast, and we'll take a look and see, in general, if these adjustments are going to get things closer. Okay.
What do you want? What do you want?
Okay, that's better. I think that in general it feels like the movement has got the right flavor to it. But it does feel like the door is opening late. Okay. Before we're kind of narrowing it down. Before we didn't like the way the door was opening. We felt it was too soon, and now we've made an adjustment and it feels a little too late. So what I'm going to do is, since I know I want to hold this what do you, I'm just going to go ahead and take all of this stuff right here. We're going to start from the door closed all the way up to the whata of what do you, and I'm just going to drag that whole thing, select all of it, and move it forward 2 frames, maybe 3. 3 might be pretty extreme. Let's move it to 2 frames forward. Alright, so I know that here's the end of the doorbell, and this is the very first sound of any door mechanism. And the door is opened before we get to the second part of the door mechanism, because the door has this kind of click, clack sound to it, right? So it's a 2-part sound. There's the click and there's the clack. And what I had before was the door opening was happening across too much of that range. It was, the door was opening across the entire click clack thing. It felt slow. So I compressed the timing, but then when I compressed the timing, I was having the door open happen too far at the clack, and it felt late. So now what I'm doing is I'm trying to kind of keep that same timing, but move it back a bit. Okay, if that makes any sense to you. I hope it does. So I grabbed everything and moved it back. And let me go ahead here, and this is the part where animation starts to slow down a fair amount, where this stuff kind of it starts to take time, but that's okay. So let's make another play blast of this and see how it looks.
What do you want? What do you want?
Alright, now I feel like we've hit it, and it took us, 2 or 3 times to kind of narrow it down, but I really feel like we hit it. And I really do feel like that even though I didn't stick exactly to this document, this whole plan I made, the important thing is I made a plan, and it gives me a place to start. Now, if I didn't have this plan to begin with, then I'm leaving myself in a position where I start with question marks the whole time, and I'm figuring this stuff out. Now imagine if every single time I made one of these adjustments, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. What if every time I made a play blast? This scene is pretty quick. It's light, it's fast, so the play blast doesn't really cost me too much. But if you're working on a film project, pardon me, if you're working on a high-end film project, the rigs are slow. I have yet to work on a film where the rigs are not slow. I mean, every rig that I work with in film is the slowest piece of garbage I've ever dealt with. Um, and, you know, what if you got more than one character? What if the actions are a little more complex? As we start getting into more complex things as we move along, we're going to find that process would take too long. So just by building this plan, we're able to kind of skip ahead just by thinking, and we make our job easier. So it took me 3 play blasts to kind of get this thing nailed down to where I wanted. Now what I'll generally tend to do is I'll save the file, and so I'll put it back here, and I'll just call it timed. Okay. And so what I generally tend to do then is make everything linear and start filling in the blanks. Okay. So come back here. I'm going to select all of these things and make the tangents linear. So tangents linear. So now we start to see things, you know, with in-betweens, because we've kind of built these things and we said, all right, let's see what we have for in-betweens. It's usually a good idea, for me anyways, to take this moment, and even though I know it's not going to work good and it's going to be kind of sloppy, I'll take a moment, I'll make a play blast of this stage as well, because it helps me know exactly what extra drawings I need to make to kind of fill in the definition. So let's go ahead and do that.
What do you want? What do you want?
Alright, so what I'm finding here is this whole section from here to here, actually I don't really have to do anything, because I made enough drawings and the computer has enough information to make those in-betweens work. Alright, and this is one of the benefits of the drawing process that I like to use, is that when I get to this point, I've got, you know, this entire first move. I like it. I mean, I'll work and maybe clean up a few things here and there when we got to, you know, like maybe some weird penetrations on the in-betweens, but I don't see any here. You know, as I step through it, as I walk through it, everything seems to be working okay. There's a little bit of something right there with the toe, but I'm not so sure that's something I need to really worry about. And that's, yeah, from here to here, and it passes. It might look like it's going through, but that's something where it's so far away from the focus of the scene. You know, the focus of the scene is right here, because the contrast of movement versus stillness is what we're looking at. So yes, while the leading edge of this door is moving, you have the door going away and the head coming across it. So the primary focus of the scene is right here. With the foot kind of hiding down here, I'll just let it go. I know that's like, oh my gosh, you got to look for every little thing. I don't believe that every pixel is precious and wonderful. I believe if it's distracting, it's important. In this instance, I don't think that this door, with a slight little possible idea here at the foot, is distracting. And the reason why I don't think it is because we don't have a scene. We don't really have a frame where it feels like, you know, we really get a sense of any of that foot being in front of the door. Okay, so you know, and a good tool to kind of help ourselves with this is, well, I thought it would come up, and there it is. Okay, is you can find this on highend3d.com in the Maya's tools, but it's this little thing called Zoomify Light. You can choose the camera, and you can change things. You can zoom in and out on it, and it will remember where you were. Okay. So what I'll oftentimes do is just go right down and say, okay, is this a problem? And if I'm really worried about it, and right there, I just don't see it's a problem. It would be a problem is if we had something like this, where we could see that the line of the door is violated by the color of the foot. Okay, if that's what we had, I have to fix it. It doesn't really matter. It's just I have to fix it. But because that's not what we have, we have maybe a slight, tiny little thing of the door might be rounded there, but I can't tell if that's a problem with the render or if it's a camera angle thing. In general, what we're looking at here is the integrity of the door shape is solid. Okay, so getting from here to here, it doesn't feel like it's penetrating. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and reset all this stuff and get rid of that little tool. But in general, the in-betweening is working fine. Okay. And right here to here, I might fill that in some more, but for now I'm not going to worry about it. So we hit this what are you, and we want to hold that pretty strong. Remember, we wanted to kind of hold that and then hit this wah pretty tightly. So I want to take all of these controllers here, and what I'm going to do is kind of hold this, and the easiest way to do that is get to the frame and then middle drag over, and let's see, I want to hit this want pretty quickly, so maybe just off the top of my head I'm going to say 3, maybe 4 frames to get from the end of this hold into this into this one right here. Alright, and so just for this transition we're going to go from here, we're going to go back 1, 2, 3 frames. I'm middle mouse dragging here so that I can kind of get a sense. I'm just going to hit key, okay? And so now it's it's very much it's frozen here. This is as if by having 2 of the same kinds of keys right after each other, it's like having step tangents. So there's a couple of ways I could adjust this. I want to hold the extreme for the very end of the move, okay? A couple ways you can do this. If you have a tool that lets you kind of shade that key towards the previous one, you can use that. And a good one for that, I think, again, I showed it last month, is Tween Machine. It's pretty handy. This particular key right now is set to 0 preference. It's not more or less like anything. It is itself. Okay. If I make it more and more like the one after it, it doesn't change anything because they're exactly the same, right? So this is where we're at. Let me go ahead and just fire that up again. Okay, so that's where it's at. What I want to do is make it a little bit more like the frame before it, but not that much more. Alright, so what I'm trying to do here is then I can step through this to kind of get what I want, and that's too much like the frame before. Okay, so there we go, something like that, where that frame is more like this one, but a little bit, it's not exactly the same. Now that kind of got a little confusing, and I'm going to go through and do that again because that really bothered me how that tool handled it. And so I'm just going to undo some of this stuff right here and just keep undoing it. And I normally I wouldn't worry about this because normally I'm not teaching while I animate, but this is one thing I wanted to handle. The tool itself comes up and it shows no difference, but it's working the difference between this key at 40 and this key at 48. Right, so you got 40 and you got 48, and right now we have the one we're going to adjust is at 42. Right now the Tween Machine hasn't done anything, okay? But if I just go ahead and click this button, it's different. But I haven't changed this value here, but I just click the button right there. What happens is it says, oh well, 40 looks like this, 48 looks like this. So you just click this button. So I'm going to take the halfway distance between 40 and 48 and just make this frame look like that. And that's something I forgot about in this particular tool. So what I really want to do is I want to make this one more like 48 and just a little bit like 40. Okay? So in that instance, knowing that this tool thinks in terms of 40 is back here and 48 is over here, I want to make it more like 48. So I'm just going to put it towards this end of the slider. Okay? And so this is enough change for the moving hold to work. Okay? Now, the one thing as I scrubbed through it, this right here is it's just kind of, it's drifting, okay? I want my moving hold to be there, but I want it to have definition. So the thing I'm going to do is moving holds to me are like eases, okay? You get from A to B. Let's do this a different way. You have A and you have B, okay? A perfect linear move goes like this. Sorry, I'm going to do this one more time because I have to get it right. We have A to B, and then C is an extreme of B, okay? And so this is a linear move, and then this is considered, we'll just call this our moving hold, okay? You'll notice that C is an extreme of B, so a moving hold is just what I call a kind of an ease. You know, because this is what an ease looks like in your graph editor. You know, your graph editor, you just have nice curves, right? So if we were to spline this out, we get this, and we kind of go up here like this. And let's say we soften it like that. The problem is that this moving hold right here, it's not that much different than linear, so it just kind of feels like it's drifting. So what I like to do is quickly get into something more extreme of it and then make the moving hold a little bit tighter. So I need another key somewhere between the pose hit and the end of the moving hold, that extreme, to kind of give it just a little bit more definition. So that's this right here is the pose hit. There's the extreme at 48, and I want it to be tighter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back here maybe around 46, set a key, and move it back a couple. So I'm kind of hitting it, and I hit the pose, and then I get up into the extreme pretty quickly, but not quite, and then it's just slightly easing up into it. Alright, so these are the kinds of things I build right after I time things out. I kind of look at what's sliding, what's sloppy, and I go ahead and I build it out. Alright, the other thing is from here to here is I really don't have a breakdown that I like. The computer timing from here to here just feels kind of mushy. Now, this is an oversight on my part. I should have built a breakdown from this to this, but now that I think about it, this really is a breakdown between this and this, okay? So I have to treat not 48 to 51 as the move, but 48 to 58 as the move. Now that's a really slow move. You stop and think about it. You know, 10 frames, almost half a second to get from this to this, and it's too slow. So what I need to do is I need to treat this like a breakdown. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move that back so this part is quicker from 48 to 52 frames, and then I'm going to hit this, and it's a moving hold. I think what I'll do is I scrub through it. What do you want? I think I'll just come way back here, and I could just take this frame and slide it back and make that moving hold even bigger. That could work. I'm trying to decide off the top of my head if that's something I want to do. Let's try this. I'm going to leave that where it is. I'm going to go one frame before it. Okay? And I'm just going to set a key there, and I'm going to move this back so that this move from 48 is now from 48 to 53. 5 frames is pretty quick. Okay? Any move that takes less than probably 5 frames needs good padding on either side. This is a good little timing note. If you have a move that takes 8 frames, it doesn't really need a lot of ease in or ease out. Doesn't need a big anticipation. Doesn't need a lot of cushioning because it just reads okay. If you have a move that's 5 frames, you need to start building in some ease and some ease at the front side and the back side. Maybe even a little bit of anticipation to kind of give it definition. If you have a move that is less than 5 frames, you definitely need strong eases and cushions because it's too quick for the audience to catch. So you have to do that old, Charlie Chaplin used to have a thing. 1, tell the audience what you're going to do, what you will do, okay? Then do it. And then 3, tell them what you did. Okay? That's Charlie Chaplin's success. Those are his 3 steps to making a gag work. Um, and animation works the same way. The faster you do something, the more you need to tell them what you're going to do and what you just did. The slower you do something, the less you need to tell them what you're going to do and what you did. Okay? So here we got something where from 48 to 53, it's right on the edge of being too fast. But we'll see. And this might be just a little on the sloppy side right here, meaning, from 53 to 58 is 5 frames to cover that much room. I'm thinking that's just a little too long, just off the top of my head. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to nudge this one back a couple of frames, just to give a little more tight definition to the want of it. And then again, we have this long kind of sliding, mushy easing, moving hold. So what I'll do is, again, I'll come back here to give it some definition. I'll set a key maybe around 67 and then move it back. Okay? Just to give that moving hold a little bit more, again, to make it a little tighter. And I'm going to move it again because just scrubbing through it just feels a little, just a little too soft. Okay? Now, this scene is pretty light and pretty fast. The rig is pretty quick. So I can hit the play button and really get a sense of what I want to, what's going to work for me. But even then, hitting this thing right here and watching it play here is not real time. It can get you close, but it's not real time. So what we need to do is make one more play blast to see what our timing looks like in this instance. Okay, so let me make another play blast here and see if these adjustments work within the timing that I've already accomplished. Okay.
What do you want? What do you want?
Okay. Just an analysis of this shows me that this part is still working well, and this ease up into this extreme works really well. I feel like it's hitting the want just a little slow. It's a little mushy, and it comes too soon. Okay, so what I'm going to do, and that's those. Here's what I like to do. I like to make a play blast, and I like to sit down. I like to analyze the problem. All right, I don't just like to go, well, I don't like that, and then just start moving things around. You can't do that. You got to sit down and understand what you're doing. So I looked at the play blast, and like I said, I determined that the first part is okay. All right, this section right here. The other thing I determined is the want is it's slow and early. Okay, so that gives me some things to work with. Okay, so if the beginning part of this particular scene right here, which is from here, it's all the way through this right here, it gets all the way up to that hold right there at 38 or something like that. Okay, that part's okay. And I feel like then that this part right here from 43 all the way through this want part is slow and early. Okay, so this allows me to kind of say, okay, all right, good. I've worked this out. This part's okay. This part's slow and early. Well, it lets me see what what in my keys what I need to do to change this. So this part's okay. I like this part. Okay, we hit that pose right there at 42 pretty good. And we get up into that moving hold pretty good at 44. This part from 48 through here is slow and early. Well, what I'll do then is I'll just select the keys from 48 through, say, 56, and I'll move them right 2 frames. So that's now happening later, but it's also taking less time. Okay, if it's early, you move it later. If it's too slow, you make it take less time. So with one move, I'm kind of solving 2 problems here, right? And the slow part seems to happen from there to there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these first 2 and nudge them over a frame, just to give it a little bit more pop. Okay, and I think that'll do the trick. Okay. Um, well, let's just take a look at this. We'll play blast this and see how it looks.
What do you want? What do you want?
Okay, I solved one of the problems, but I made another one. Okay, what happened is we had two problems. Remember, we were slow and we were early. Well, I fixed the slow. That's good. But now, we're not early. Now it's late. Okay? So what I have to do here is I have to fix it being late. But I know that the general timing of it, how long it takes to make that move, is working okay. So that's simple. I know that the move starts here and ends here, and I know it's not slow and it's not too fast, so I can take this entire block from 51 to 60, just like the whole thing. It comes late, so I'll just move it back 1, 2, I'll try 3 frames. Well, no, not off the top of my head. I'm just going to try 2, okay? And this is what you do. You just kind of start bracketing in. You solve one problem at a time, and as you move through your scene, you just kind of say, okay. And we're talking about timing here. I'm not worried. You notice I haven't checked arcs or, drags or follow-throughs or any of that business right now, because it just helps me to kind of cut the scene up into phases. I worked about all those things, the arcs and the overlaps and the patterns and the squashes and the stretch. I did all that back in the drawing phase. And notice here I'm only looking at timing. It's just so much easier when you can worry about drawing type stuff and then worry about timing type stuff. Because that's really animation, isn't it? It's the core of it. What do your drawings look like and how are they timed out? That's it, So if you can get that stuff working, you're good. So we're going to focus here again just on the timing, and we'll make one more play blast here and see if that little adjustment makes it feel not so late.
What do you want? What do you want? What do you want?
Okay, I should have moved it 3 instead of 2. It's still just a tiny little bit late. Okay, so again, I'll just take that whole section and move it back a frame. Okay, and I think that's going to work better. But I do think that from here to here to here, it's just that's 48, 1, 2, 3, 4 frames. And then 1, 2, 3 to there, and then 1, 2 to there. So we got 4 frames for the most of the move, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frames for the rest of the move. So we're looking at a 9-frame move from 48 to 57. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to move 55 forward a frame, just to give it a little bit more pop on the front side. And I think I'll move 52 forward another frame, so that go from here to here in 1 frame, just to give it a little bit more pop, okay? And move this one forward 1 more, okay? I'm not changing the timing of it, okay? It's still a 9-frame move from 48 to 57. Now I'm just shifting around the drawings inside of it. Now I'm changing the spacing, okay? And that's important to remember, because timing. Oh man, let's do this where we can see it, right? Your timing is getting from A to B in whatever time it takes. So, this was from 48 to 57. Your spacing is what do these things look like in space on each frame. Okay, so we've got those 49, 50, 51, 52, 54. I could probably, well, you get the idea. This is even spacing. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm just adjusting, I'm adjusting some of the spacing here. It's the same number of drawings, it's just I'm changing what the spacing looks like. Just by taking those drawings and shuffling them around, I'm covering more ground quickly or less ground more slowly, but I'm leaving the timing intact. So that's the difference between timing and spacing, in case you didn't know it. The timing is the same. Okay, I have not touched it. It is a 9-frame move. The spacing is what happens, how it moves inside of it. Okay, So I just decided to shuffle a few things around to give it just a little bit more pop. Okay. One more play blast and we'll see how this looks.
What do you want? What do you want? What do you want?
There we go. That's what I've been after. Okay, I would say that at this point the scene is pretty well timed out. Okay, and I have been at this for about an hour. Okay, you guys won't have been watching it for an hour because I'll edit out a lot of the stuff that, waiting for play blasts and watching and kind of analyzing. But that's it. It takes me an hour to time out this scene. By having the drawings in place, by having a plan for how I stretch out the team, how I time it out, and again, that initial idea that was really important to me was this slow then fast. Okay, that's the general sense I wanted for the scene, and I took a guess at how to accomplish it. But when you watch the play blast, you really get a sense that it is going slow and then fast. So it takes a little bit from here to get up, and it hits that pose. So it's it's kind of slow, and then very quickly gets from here. It's going from, let's see, 35. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 frames to get from door closed to right here. So his head's covering, this distance in 5 frames. Okay? And then from here, 1, 2, he's hitting quite a bit of difference right here in just 2 frames. Okay? He's almost moving just as far with his head in 2 frames. So it's that slow fast feeling that I wanted, because the spacing, if you look at it in terms of the head shape, the spacing is that far in 5 frames and that far, which is almost as far, in 2 frames. Okay, so it's got that slow fast feeling that I was after. And then when he holds it, it's slow, and then down here fast. Okay, so to get from when he hits this pose right here, his head is right here, and at the end of the hold it's only up a little tiny bit. It's like up there a little bit, and then from there to there it's 1, 2, 3 frames, and now his head is down here. So this move again is pretty quick. That's 3 frames. And to get to the top part of that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So to move that tiny little bit is 6. So 6, tiny little bit, big in 3, slow fast. Okay. And then the ease out is what I want. So, and this is the timing I was kind of aiming for. I had to find it, and that's the way it is with timing. I found in time, with as I've got experience, that timing to me is more of you try to accomplish a style or a sense of energy that you're after. You want the motions to feel right, but breaking things down by a stopwatch and stuff is helpful, but that's a starting point. Then it's a matter of manipulating the spacing of things and adjusting the timing things when something hits and how long it takes. That's timing. And then once you figure that out, how the spacing works inside of it, that's kind of like the second part of it. So I'm real happy with where the timing is on this. And now after this point is where I'll often start looking at the in-betweens that the computer makes and start worrying about things like like penetrations. Like right here we'll see that the face is kind of poking into the door. The nice thing is I'm only asking the computer to in-between this one frame from 37 to 38 to 39. I know 39's working pretty well, but even then I could just go ahead and I can adjust these things a little bit. And 38's, all I got to do is just kind of just adjust these things so it doesn't feel like he's poking through the door. Alright, and that's where you ask the computer to make in-betweens, but I don't have to make a whole new drawing for the thing. I just need to adjust a few things here and there. Okay, comes down. Maybe we can take him down a little bit. So we have a bit more of that arc there. Now I can start looking at arc stuff. Okay? And then from here to here to here, I can maybe do something at this frame if I wanted to, where I can maybe drag that head a little bit more. Now I'm starting to look to plus things. The timing works, the drawings work. The computer had enough information to make good in-betweens on the moves. I had to define the moving holds a little bit better, and I just needed to tighten up this move. Had to define this moving hold a little bit better. This would be a great place right back here to put a blink, and I can build that out. And so now it's time to just start filling in the little things, doing the lip sync, softening up. And another thing you'll notice, if I were to go ahead and show you this, these are all, I believe they are all still linear keys. Yeah, they are. And so the timing works really, really well, and the keys are just linear. All right, so now comes polish. This is the lip sync, polish, cleaning up. Next video we're done with this shot. We're done with it because it just doesn't. We've done all the hard work in the drawing. We did the hard work in the timing today. Drawings and timings, you got that working. Bam, we're done. We're getting there. We will wrap this up in VTS47. We will be done, and we're going to get through the lip sync, the polish, all that stuff next week, because that stuff goes pretty quick once you get past this stage. This is like the boom. All right, we got it. Okay, this is a scene. You just clean it up. Okay, so there you go. I try to move a little quicker this month because I got some folks saying you're moving too slow. So there you go. Hopefully this wasn't too slow, and I went as quickly as I dared, and hopefully that was good. All right.